if you're going to use a PMax, you better have some script knowledge. Run some scripts, because you can use the scripts to pull data from the PMax, and you'll be shocked on like where your ads are showing up.
Welcome to another episode of What's Working in E-commerce. I'm your host, Eagan Heath. I'm from Asymmetric Marketing, where I'm a partner. You can find us at asymmetric.pro, asymmetric.pro, and check out the work we're doing for our clients. Today, I'm speaking with a fellow PPC enthusiast. We have on Zaid Ammari, and he is from PPC Masterminds. Zaid, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Eagan. Appreciate it.
No, Zaid, I know you've worked at a number of agencies and been doing this for quite a while, and you've started your own. You're the founder and CEO over there at PPC Masterminds. Tell us a bit about your journey and why you started your company.
Yeah, for sure. I started off working at a minimum wage bank job for exactly a year, and I just didn't like it at all, because if you're late 5 minutes, for example, they would deduct from your salary. At that time, back in 2009-ish, I opened up a website where people can put up ads for. I used my savings to make a website where people can put up like cars for sale, and I drove around taking pictures for people, like adding up their cars, made some money from ads on it, and then I sold it, and then decided to come to LA to a friend's house where I knew that I could at least crash at his house while I work at an agency and learn the marketing for growing websites, because that was part of the biggest challenge when I was growing my first website.
You've come a long way now. I know you've been doing PPC for quite a while here. One of the things, as we were chatting beforehand, you said basically sometimes you get tough cases where clients have already been working with other agencies, if things really didn't work, and you're taking over the account and having to make it work. What are some of the mistakes you see when you go into an account and you say, boy, they really did not set this up right?
Biggest mistake I see is conversion tracking. They're either tracking too many conversions that don't matter, or they're not tracking conversions at all. Another big mistake I see is just completely trusting Google and having the auto recommendations turned on, like just letting Google add in keywords as they like, or like messing with the budget or messing with your ads. That's always horrible.
Yeah, you and I are in full agreement there of watch out for Google's automation and their things. And oftentimes accounts go upside down because they took Google's automated recommendations, or sometimes even recommendations from their Google reps. So just because they're selling the ads doesn't mean they know the platform. Is that how you've experienced it?
Oh yeah, man, don't let me start it on Google Ad Reps. I get calls from them all the time, and I tell them don't call me, but they still keep calling me. I get emails from them all the time, and they CC the client, and the client already knows we're on top of it, so it's not like I'm worried about that. But they always recommend stuff that's, most of the time, they're talking about vanity metrics, right? They're talking about like your optimization score, which at the end of the day doesn't really matter. If you go into the optimization recommendations and dismiss every single thing they tell you, you'll get 100% optimization score. So it doesn't even affect anything in your account. Or, for example, one of the biggest misconceptions is the ad rank, where it says like poor, average, or excellent. That's also like a vanity metric, because they're measuring it, but if you have a keyword in the headline and how many headlines you have versus like what's the CTR on the ad compared to other ads in the account. So it's yeah, you just have to be careful and just trust your own experience, trust the agency you're working with or the expert you're working with. Not everything the support tells you is like 100% accurate.
Yeah, that's true. And where do you stand on automated bidding and those sorts of strategies? I find for us, we're often using, even manual PPC this day and age. Every now and then maximize clicks to get something going, but even maximize conversions, we've really seen mixed results, maybe depending on how much conversion data is in there. But talk to us about how you approach the automated bidding and those options.
Yeah, it depends on the brand, on the campaign type. So if you're running, for example, brand, I would just run it on max clicks, because basically, or target search impression, just to make sure that you're on the top all the time, because you don't want your competitor to be on top of you. For campaigns that don't have conversions, I either start off with it basically just by the campaign type, right? What's the goal of the campaign? But yeah, if the campaign doesn't have conversion data, I don't start off with maximize conversions, because then Google has nothing to go with on how to help you with that. So I start off with max clicks for that. Manual CPC with enhanced, I always start with that too. I do run target ROAS, but that's like a hit and miss. I had a client ask me, "Oh, how come you have our account at a 400% ROAS? Why can't you jack it up to 3,000?"
Right.
I was like, "Man, that's a good question.
Give
You
us
could
money,
jack
Google.
up." Yeah, exactly. But honestly, it's a hit and miss. Like some campaigns, you increase the target ROAS, and the ROS like shoots down, and sometimes you lower it, right, and it goes up.
One thing I've seen too is just it will not spend. If your target ROAS is totally up in outer space, it's not on planet Earth, you just won't get any impressions. Google just won't show it. So either
100%.
It could tank the performance, or that's not real. So that's the answer. That's why we don't just get 30x on our ads because we want it. That's not reality, and that's not what the auction's doing. So it needs to be, like you said, 4x would be something more reasonable where it still should be profitable, right? That's great.
100%. 100%.
We haven't found anything we disagree on yet, so no lively debate, but maybe we'll get there. I see on your LinkedIn, you do Google Ads audits. You do a free Google Ads audit, so we'll link to your LinkedIn account if anybody wants to check it out. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you do in those audits? Maybe you could talk through your process when you come on a new account and you're looking at performance and trying to improve the performance. What are some of the things you audit and that you look at?
Absolutely. I have a massive checklist that I go through. But in short, I start off with the fundamentals. I don't just look at the Google Ads account. I actually look at the website, the landing pages, because those are critical. I look at the ads, the ad copy. I look at historical data in the account. Obviously, look at if auto recommendations are on. I test the conversion tracking, if it's working or not. Look at what campaign types they're running. How is it structured? Are they using negative keyword lists? Are they using scripts, which 98% of the time they don't? And I just literally go through I have 1,000 things that I look at, but it just depends on, like when I open up an account, I can already tell like how advanced it could be. So sometimes I skip the advanced checklist and just go with the basic stuff. But if the basic stuff is done, then I go to the advanced checklist kind of thing.
Yeah. And maybe you could make that explicit too. If you look at an account, you can see quickly, do they know what they're doing? Is this an advanced PPC running this, or it's just the basics? How do you know that? How do you tell at a glance like that?
Oh, sometimes I open an account and there's one campaign in it. And obviously it's, if I open an account and there's one PMAX campaign in it, it's, what are you guys doing? If for example, if I open up the conversions and I see 10 conversions set up, obviously they're not optimizing for a specific goal. They just want time on site, which is like automatically just tells you right off the bat, like who cares about how much time they're going to spend on your website? That's not a conversion goal. Like integrations, it's not connected to GA4. Automatically, what are these guys doing? Things like that's some of the basic things that I see. Negative keyword lists, like they're not using it. That's like a red flag.
Yeah. One thing we've seen
I can go on and on, man. I don't know how much time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So some of the ones we look at is you go in the change history of their previous agency or someone in-house is supposed to be managing it, and nothing's been changed in months. That's a pretty good giveaway.
Yep. No, that's another one. Yep.
No real optimization happening. So those are good. I wonder if you could say more on how you like to structure campaigns. Talk to us about when you set something up, how many different campaigns do you have? What are the ad groups? Kind of what are the ads within that? Maybe just talk campaign structure and account structure with us.
For sure. It just depends on the type of business. So if it's an e-commerce, obviously I try to separate the campaigns by the product type. I do ask the client to basically give me a list of what products they make the most margin on, what they make the most profit on. I do use third-party tools that do track the profit. So I could, for example, optimize for POAS, which is profit on ad spend. So that's a cool thing. But like a campaign structure, I usually start off simple and then I expand it. I don't like to start off with 50 campaigns. I like to start off with maybe 3 to 5 super specific ad groups with keywords in them. I don't look at high search volume. I look at high relevancy. You know what I mean? A lot of mistakes I see is, okay, this keyword doesn't get 10,000 searches a month, so why should I bid on it? Because it doesn't make sense to your account.
It could be high intent of someone's ready to buy if they search that, even if it's not frequent. Yeah,
exactly. And some of the keyword tools, you run it and they'll pull up a keyword that's 10 searches a month. but it's like high relevancy. And then another keyword that's maybe a little less intent, but like 10,000 searches. I start off with super relevant, high intent keywords with either exact or phrase match, just to be like super technical here, because broad match is becoming, dare I say it, very, man, I don't know what word to use, but like a ripoff.
Yeah, they're really throwing a lot of junk in there. You're paying for search terms you really don't want to pay for.
Yeah. Even if we run, sometimes we run exact match and we get close match variants to the exact match, which don't even make sense. So
Yeah.
it's scary, man, because clients are trusting you their account, and you're running exact match, thinking that if you're not experienced, you're thinking like, okay, like they're only going to show my ads on this exact keyword, and it ends up showing up on close variant, which, like, I don't even know how they thought it was a close variant.
Yeah. That's why you got to be vigilant on those search term reports and adding negative keywords and really having negative keyword lists. It's more important than ever. And for anybody who's not familiar, it's important to know what Zaid's talking about here. Time was that broad match was broad match. You'd put in a phrase and it would match for all kinds of things. Phrase match was phrase match. If we said a car detailing service, Madison, with quotes around it, nothing in between could be in those in those words. And if you put that in brackets, hard brackets, only that phrase or maybe a plural version of it would show your ads. And basically, Google has taken a lot of that power from paid search marketers of they're determining more and more what search terms that your keywords show for. Is that a fair summary, Zaid?
That is a very fair summary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So you really got to be in there. You got to be vigilant and don't just trust their automated recommendations. It sounds like we structure things similarly. I know you mentioned branded campaigns previously. Do you usually have a non-branded, a branded, and competitor campaigns? Do you like to start with non-branded? How do you structure the account with those things?
Branded is case by case. If I look at a client and like their competitors are not bidding on their name, for example, I might not start it off. If they are bidding on their name 100%, I would start it off. I would send the traffic. A lot of people say, okay, why are you going to bid on your brand name? You're just basically pretending that you're getting conversions for the client, even though people are just typing in the brand name. When you're doing paid marketing, you could send the traffic to wherever you want. Instead of sending it to a homepage, you could send it to a landing page that converts much higher. Like when you're doing brand traffic, you don't necessarily have to send it to a homepage. Just send it to a page that gets a higher conversion rate straight off the bat. So that way there's no excuse of, okay, I'm just trying to get conversions for my client using the brand name kind of thing.
That's a pretty interesting reason. The other one we see is just competitors are bidding on those brand names, or competitors are just running broad match campaigns and it's showing up for your client's brand name. So either way, you need to get the insights in there to see, are other people bidding? You can search your own phrase incognito and see, are people doing it? But to really get a quantitative sense of, for every time 100 or 1,000 times that somebody searches my brand name, how often are ads showing up? You have to run branded campaigns to even know.
That's 100% accurate. Also, like sometimes if you want to go super technical, if the client, for example, is the leader in the market and their competitor doesn't compare to them. So if you compare them to the competitor, their value is like way different, right? The customer knows that. Just let them bid on your brand name and spend their money.
You don't always have to be worried if they're bidding on yours. All right. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. You've got a Google Data Studio or Google Looker Studio template here, and you said you're willing to share. Is that right? We can put it in the link so people can check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we pull it up and talk through it? I know you said we don't want to show client data, so I'll show what you sent with an example, and then we can look at the template with a blank example too if we want. So I see the top of it, and I'll describe too for people who are listening. We basically got it broken out. Very nice visuals, by the way. They'd love the look of this. So PPC Masterminds, this is like your template Google Looker Studio dashboard for an account. And I can see it broken out by mobile, tablet, and desktop, which is pretty cool. And I'm seeing metrics like clicks, click-through rate, impressions, conversions, conversion rate, cost per conversion, total cost or total spend, average cost per click, and then even average CPM, cost per 1,000. So those are the big ones I see at the top here. It looks like it's at least the first page of it, or this one that I'm looking at, it's really broken down by device type. Can you talk to us about the metrics you have here and the choice you made there of why these metrics and why by device type?
Yeah, absolutely. So the screenshot you're looking at is actually page 2 of the report. Oh. There's 4 pages. There's a lot more data in there. There's a page this page is like device oriented. So that's why it's broken down by devices. The first page is more like a overall look in the account, like how much conversions you're getting, clicks, the geography kind of thing, the days of the week, the territory, also the campaign's performance and things like that. The second page, I think what you're looking at is the devices. So I tried to break it down of how I would usually look at it. And I just think it's easier to use than go sift through Google Ads and GA4, because if you've been in GA4 and Google Ads, it takes a while for them to load the data, right?
Yeah. And you can look at specific things you have questions about. You can really diagnose here in your dashboards, right?
Correct. So page 2 is the keyword diagnosis. You'll see the quality score, the clicks, and the cost based on the quality score by day. You can see the search keywords, and then also the search terms, I think, at the bottom.
Match type. I see some interesting ones with match type here. Yeah, that's cool. So seeing what's conversion rate by the match type you're using. I've never thought to look at that in this way. So that's a super cool one. I love this. Okay.
Yep. And then the third is, I think, device, which is the one.
Here's the device one. Yeah. Okay. I see conversions by device performance. I see by region too. Can you talk about share of clicks versus average cost by device? That could be an interesting metric to talk about.
Yeah. So sometimes you'll be like, I don't know how you set up your campaigns. I like to separate the campaigns by the device. Sometimes I use it, but I don't do the bid adjustments because I feel like it's just another layer of complexity. So I like to keep it simple. Like I'll do a campaign for desktop, a campaign for mobile kind of thing. So with that metric, you can see like which device is getting the most clicks and which one of them shares the highest cost. I wish there was some data in there, but for example, you could see if desktop and mobile are getting the same amount of clicks, but a desktop, like a mobile, is spending a lot more on a click, which is like usually the case, right?
Yeah, it seems like that's a great one to slice and dice by. Of device type, we're going to see different click-through rates, different cost per click, different conversion rates. So we really want to drill into that and understand what's working and what's not around device type.
Absolutely. So if you're running bid adjustments, then you could use that to up or decrease the bids. If you're not, then you could obviously just increase the budget on the campaign.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. Manual CPC with enhanced. Yep. That could be that piece. Sorry, everybody. There we go. So that could be a way to see. All right, let's inch these up. Let's inch these down, depending on how it's performing by device type. I saw you had geography in there as well. Anything else you like to look at that really helps you drive performance? I think it's helpful to see it. You're an experienced PPC expert. What are those metrics? What are you looking at, and what levers do you pull to drive performance?
I have a set of columns that I use in the Google Ads. I also have different views that I set up, but mostly I go by campaign. So I look at like campaign by campaign, week over week. So you can have a segment in Google Ads where it's segmenting the campaign performance week by week. And if I see it like dropping, then I would go into that campaign and then I'll dig in days of the week, hour of the day, where the click's coming from, geography. If you're running e-commerce, which product is obviously selling the most? Usually e-commerce, they have 10% of their products are probably the highest selling, and then 90% are just sending traffic to the website. Like they're probably making money on 10% of all their products. You know what I mean? I rarely yet to see like a company that's making ROS, like their ROS is high on every single product on their store. That's really how it is, like usually. Yeah, I just look at cost per click is important, cost per conversion, the conversion value over the cost, which is basically campaign by campaign, break it down.
Yeah. And do you ever use Performance Max? Do you ever recommend using it? Talk about that.
So when it first came out, I was against it because I actually was working with a company and there was like too many cooks in the kitchen, and someone in their account went in. Like we were getting them 15x, which is huge.
Absolutely. Wow.
Yeah, and they were doing great. And then someone in their account went in. I don't know where they heard about PMax, but they set up PMax. And then we went into the account. We're like, what the hell is happening? And we look at PMax, and PMax is doing amazing. So we're like, okay, this is great. But then you dig into it, and then we're noticing like, oh, it just stole all the brand traffic. So literally, it didn't do nothing. It just took all the brand traffic attributed it to itself. And their account guy's like, oh, I did great. Look at the ROAS on this PMAX. And I'm like, dude, you just literally ran another brand traffic account, like campaign.
Yep.
Like it did
And
nothing.
it used to be that sketchy PPC companies would pull the wool over their clients' eyes by doing that in the account. And now Google's doing it themselves and taking credit for it. So I think Performance Max can work, but you really have to be careful. And our position is, if you're going to do it, you got to put in brand negatives, and you got to really watch what those placements are. It's going to mix in display and everything along with your search.
Yeah, it looks like we agree on a lot of things. What I want to add is, if you're going to use a PMAX, you better have some script knowledge, because you run some scripts, because you can use the scripts to pull data from the PMAX. And like, I've ran some scripts on PMAX, and you'll be shocked on like where your ads are showing up. Like they'll be showing up on like weird placements that make no sense. You know what I mean? Because PMAX is basically, here, Google, take my ad. And you know what? There's an option in it too where they can make ads for you. And I turn that off, obviously. And then they just run your ads on YouTube, Display Network, Search Network, Shopping Network, Gmail. If there's another platform I don't know about, they'll just dump it on there. And then good luck figuring all that out. And then when you go into the PMAX, there's no data.
Yeah, so I'd say be cautious. I wanted to ask you about the scripts. I'm most familiar with scripts are making automated changes and things to your account, doing bid adjustments. Are you saying you sometimes use scripts and you can actually see what the ad placements are that way?
Yes, okay. You can use scripts to pull data from PMAX. There's a script that I would recommend from, I think his name is Mike Rhodes. You have to buy it, but yeah, not everyone's a coder, right? You just take it and put it in, and it will pull your data and segment it into a report. And he keeps updating it all the time. Definitely recommend checking him out, and definitely recommend just paying for it, because I would rather pay Mike than pay Google for no results. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great insight. We'll try to find that and link to it here if we can, or if you've got that, we'll put that in the show notes. That's a great one, Zaid. Thank you. Try to recover some of the data again that Google's hiding in the black box. That's phenomenal. All right. Is anything else I should ask about, or anything that you've really found has been helpful that you think people should hear in terms of their PPC accounts and driving performance?
I don't know. Just basically keep looking at, if you're a lead company, pay attention to the search terms. Pay super attention to the search terms. Definitely use scripts to help you out. Stay away from broad match. PMAX is a black box, so be careful of it. Use negative keyword lists as much as you can. Just make sure you're only tracking conversions that matter to you. Get as much data as possible, and then sift through the data and get some actionable insights. And maybe one thing I didn't touch on is, don't do things just because you think they don't work. Make sure you have statistically significant data to back up your optimization. And the way we usually do that is, like, for new campaigns, they always ask me, like, what should I expect to be my conversion rate? So I usually look at their organic traffic conversion rate. And then we obviously want to do better than the organic traffic conversion rate. So it's either going to be the same or a little bit better. So you can use that as a baseline when you're starting out. And then based on that, for example, you can calculate how many clicks does it usually take for us to get a conversion. And based on that number of clicks, you can use that as a baseline for statistically significant information on making decisions.
Yeah, that's great. I'm curious why you think the PPC traffic should convert at a higher rate than the SEO traffic.
Not at a higher, like a super higher rate, but it should be the same or a little bit higher, because you could drive users to a specific landing page. Or, for example, it depends, right? That's a kind of a broad statement. If you're running long tail keywords that are super specific, then you could potentially get higher conversion rates. But if you're just running broad match on not relevant keywords, then your conversion rate is going to be less. And usually your organic conversion rate is mostly brand traffic. You know what I mean? So it just depends on what I meant by organic is, like, you're actually ranking for a good amount of keywords, not just brand. So
right. So it sounds like
that you
can control the keywords you're showing up for more carefully. You can control the landing page and that whole experience. That's why PPC traffic should convert at a higher rate.
Correct. I'm not saying that like, in general your PPC should get a higher conversion rate than organic. It just really depends on the situation, your business type, and what's really happening, because there's a lot of nuances in there, as you definitely know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You've mentioned scripts a couple times. I think I'd be remiss not to ask about it. Can you describe verbally of what do some of the scripts do that you use, and maybe talk through that process of when do you know you need a script, and then do you have to know JavaScript to write this, or are you hiring people to write the scripts? I wonder if you could just talk about scripts a little bit with your agency.
Yeah, no, I write scripts myself and I test them in the account. But a little, when you want to use scripts, when you're running PMax, 100%, because it's a black box. And then, for example, if you're running broad match keywords, you could use scripts to help you find search terms and then add them as negatives, for example. You could run more advanced scripts where, let's say, you're running an HVAC company and like heating and cooling. So in summer, you could, or depending on the weather, right? If the weather is like super cold, some people are going to have a breakdown in a heater. So you could up your bids based on the weather pattern. Other types is, there's one script that I really thought everybody was using, but I was shocked that no one has it, which is, and I don't even know why this is not even a feature in Google Ads. If they were really trying to help you, this would be something by default, which is basically, let's say your website goes down. Why should my ads
turn off the ads?
Yeah, exactly.
Landing page is down. Stop running traffic. Yeah. I think when they do catch it, it can turn off, but it's not as immediate as we would hope.
No, it's not immediate. And the only thing they do is just disapprove your ad. So your campaigns are still running. And but yeah, that's one script that I use. If the website goes down, pause my campaigns. And then if the website goes up, resume them again, or at least send you an email, be like, yo, your website's down.
Interesting. It occurs to me we had a whole match type discussion on the keywords of broad match, phrase match, exact match. For quite a while in my agency, we used modified broad match, and it was quite nice. So if you put a little plus sign in front of each word, and every one of those words has to be in the phrase, but they could be in different order. And that was a nice in between of it. Didn't have all the crap of broad match, and it wasn't quite as strict as phrase. And we had good luck with that. And it strikes me that maybe we could reproduce that with a sophisticated enough script and say, we could run it as a broad match campaign, but if you're seeing anything outside these words in the search term, add those as a negative, and then you could just do that automatically.
Yeah, 100%. Those good old days of the plus sign.
Modified broad match. Come on,
all
Google.
Gone. All gone.
Lost a good lever there. All right. This is so good.
Just make exact match again, man, and I'm happy. You know what I mean? Please help us out.
Well, that's great. All right. Thank you for comparing notes on this stuff, Zaid. I can tell you're a pro at this stuff, and I'm sure people listening or watching will feel the same way. Where can they find you, and who's a good person to reach out to you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Zaid Ammari. If you want some help, I'm happy to run an audit, like you said, free audit. And yeah, you can find me on PPC Masterminds.
All right. Check it out at ppcmasterminds.com. Zaid Omari, thank you for coming on and sharing what's working in e-commerce.
Thank you, Eagan. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.